Do you think you know what a desert is? Endless dunes, a scorching sun, a dead landscape where it seems neither traces of life nor traces of memory remain. We are used to considering the desert a void. But what if the Sahara is not a lifeless void at all, but the largest archive on the planet? Beneath each of its layers lies another page of the past, erased by the wind from human history. Here lie ancient oceans and the remains of creatures that never saw sand. Here, armies vanished as if dissolving into the wind, and here the mummies of fair-haired people are found, whose appearance in these places seems impossible. Today, we will not just talk about the desert, we will open it as an archive. We will break open this giant sandy layer of memory to see the worlds it once swallowed. And this story begins not in deep antiquity, but quite recently. On April 20th, 2023, U.S. Space Force radars recorded the fall of an object weighing about 300 kilograms on the border of Sudan and Egypt. It was not a meteorite. It was a NASA satellite called RSI, launched back in 2002. For almost 20 years, it observed the sun, recorded solar flares, registered coronal mass ejections, and helped scientists better understand the behavior of our star. In 2018, the craft went silent and turned into space debris, and 5 years later, its orbit decayed, and it returned to Earth, right into the heart of the ancient desert. NASA reported that most of the structure burned up in the atmosphere, but the Sahara knows how to keep secrets. Perhaps, somewhere beneath the sand lie fragments of titanium and silicon, modern fragments of civilization that, in thousands of years, future archaeologists might mistake for the remains of an unknown ship from another era. This episode is an almost perfect metaphor. Everything that disappears ends up here sooner or later. The Sahara collects more than just sand. It collects memory. And we move here. In 2013, Egyptian paleontologists from Mansoura University discovered an almost complete skeleton of a previously unknown dinosaur in the Dakhla Oasis. It was named Mansourasaurus. This titanosaur, about 10 meters long, lived approximately 80 million years ago and weighed about 5 tons. But scientists were struck not by its size, but by its origin. Its bones turned out to be much closer to European dinosaur species than to African ones. This meant that at the end of the Cretaceous period, Africa was not yet completely isolated and could have been connected to Eurasia by land bridges. One find changed ideas about ancient animal migrations and showed that even in the age of dinosaurs, continents continued to interact with each other, but the Sahara holds more than just dinosaur bones. About 150 kilometers from Cairo lies a place called Wadi al-Hitan, the Valley of the Whales. Among the sands lie the skeletons of giant creatures, as if washed ashore just recently, though they are about 40 million years ago. This place was once the bottom of the warm Tethys Sea, where land mammals gradually transformed into marine giants. The skeletons of Basilosaurus, up to 18 meters long, even preserved tiny hind limbs with knees and toes, direct evidence that whales descended from animals that once walked on land. In the sands, they also found the remains of ancient crocodiles, turtles, sea snakes, and even the stomach contents of ancient predators. Wadi al-Hitan is a time capsule frozen at the moment life decided to change elements. From prehistoric seas, we move to human history. In 524 BC, the Persian king Cambyses II, having conquered Egypt, sent a vast army of about 50,000 men across the western desert to the oracle of the god Amun in the Siwa Oasis. This army vanished. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote that a powerful sandstorm struck the soldiers, and the wind buried them forever under the sand. For a long time, this story was considered a legend. But in 2009, Italian researchers Angelo and Alfredo Castiglione claimed to have found traces of the possible catastrophe. Human bones, bronze daggers, arrowheads, and jewelry dating back to the Persian period. The location of the find did not completely coincide with Herodotus's descriptions, but it matched the logic of ancient routes and desert winds. The evidence remains controversial, but the very thought that the desert is capable of erasing an entire army from the face of the earth seems frighteningly plausible. In the very heart of the Sahara lies another mystery. Libyan desert glass. Among the dunes of the Great Sand Sea on the border of Egypt and Libya lie thousands of pieces of transparent yellow-green material consisting of almost pure silica. To form such glass, a temperature above 2,000 degrees is required. There are no volcanoes in this area. The most likely explanation is a cosmic catastrophe. Perhaps about 29 million years ago, a powerful asteroid explosion or impact occurred here, melting vast masses of sand. This glass was known even to the ancient Egyptians. The most famous piece was found on the chest of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. The scarab in the center of his pectoral is made of this very material. The Egyptians likely considered this stone a gift from heaven, the frozen flame of the cosmos. Now we travel far to the east, to the Taklamakan Desert in modern-day China. Here, archaeologists found hundreds of mummies up to 4,000 years old. These people looked unusual for the region, tall, with blonde or reddish hair and European facial features. They were dressed in woolen tunics and checkered trousers resembling Scottish fabrics. The most famous of them is the so-called Beauty of Lulan, a woman with long auburn hair surprisingly well preserved in the dry desert climate. These finds caused a sensation and even political tension because China's official historical tradition emphasized the independent development of its civilization. Who were these people? Genetic studies showed that they were not migrants from Europe, but descended from an ancient, isolated population that lived in the region since the Ice Age. Their unusual appearance was not the result of late mixing of peoples, but a trace of ancient genetic heritage preserved thanks to the isolation of the desert. At the same time, they grew wheat, made cheese, and actively exchanged ideas with neighboring cultures. These mummies serve as a reminder that human history is not a straight tree, but a complex network of intersecting paths. Let's return to Africa. In the Tenere Desert in 2000, paleontologist Paul Sereno, while searching for dinosaur bones, unexpectedly discovered human burials. Aerial photographs showed a vast field of graves, hundreds of ancient remains. This turned out to be one of the oldest Stone Age cemeteries known as Gobero. Here, archaeologists discovered two cultural layers. The older inhabitants, called the Kiphians, lived here about 10,000 years ago. They were tall hunters and fishermen who ate fish and hippos and left behind bone harpoons. Then the climate changed abruptly. Centuries of drought ensued, and the people left these places. Thousands of years later, when the rains briefly returned, another people came here, the Tenerians. They were shorter in stature, but their culture appeared more complex. They practiced cattle herding, made jewelry, and left behind surprisingly touching burials. In one of the graves, archaeologists found a woman and two children lying facing each other. Their arms were intertwined, and the pollen of ancient flowers was preserved under their heads. This is not just an archaeological find. It is a moment of human tenderness that has survived 6,000 years. But then the climate changed again. The rains left for good, and the Sahara turned into the desert we know today. Gobero became a monument to climate change and a reminder of how entire cultures can disappear along with the last river. And finally, a story that takes us to the very beginning of humanity. Laetoli, Tanzania, 1976. Paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey's team was exploring a frozen layer of volcanic ash when they unexpectedly noticed a trail of footprints. First, they were animal prints, and then the prints of 3 beings who walked on the wet earth millions of years ago. These were the footprints of Australopithecus afarensis, left about 3.6 million years ago. One adult, another smaller, and a child stepping in the tracks of the elder. These prints became some of the most important evidence that our ancestors were already walking upright then. Their feet had an arch, and the big toe was pressed against the others, just like a modern human's. Before this, scientists believed that bipedalism appeared along with the enlargement of the brain, but the find at Laetoli showed the opposite. First, our ancestors straightened up, and only then did they begin to develop thinking. These footprints are not just marks in ancient ash. They are footprints of destiny. We see the moment when beings with a brain similar to a chimpanzee's took the first step toward the future of humanity. They walked on wet earth and could not know that their path would become the beginning of human history. The Sahara and its surroundings are not a void. They are a vast archive of the planet, where the sand keeps the memory of ancient seas, vanished civilizations, lost armies, and the first steps of man. Everything that disappears does not vanish forever. It simply waits for its time beneath the layers of time and wind. Friends, share in the comments. What do you think of this story? If the video was interesting, support us with a like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.